Let's make a start. Okay, this is a special meeting, Old Lyme Affordable Housing Commission. It's Tuesday, May 9th, 3 minutes after 4 in the afternoon. And we are joined by Vivian Senf from Coldwell Banker to discuss a potential development opportunity in town. Just a note, this is a special meeting, so we have to stick to the agenda, which only has this one item, and it's not open for modifications. Another note is I have a hard stop at 5:30, no later than that. I don't know if we'll need to go that long, but we have a hard stop then. Okay. So the first and only agenda item is to discuss two abutting parcels of land on 4 Mile River Road that were brought to our attention by Vivian. We had brought this up briefly at our last regular meeting, and at that point decided to convene a special meeting. This is the only agenda item, so we could focus on it and invite Vivian to help us through all the information and the nuances of these properties. You have the packet that I sent out, and I'm also capable of displaying it up on the screen here, so we'll do that.
Quick question, do you want to do introductions? Does Vivian know everybody?
No, I don't.
Okay, so excellent. Thank you, Lori.
I'm Jen Miller.
Hi, Jen. Nice to meet you.
Anthony Basilio.
Hi, Anthony. Good afternoon.
Hi, Alan Poirier. I'm not part of the committee. Public.
Oh, hi, Alan. Okay.
Public.
Bill Beluzzi.
Hi, Bill.
Hi.
Amy Hosier.
Amy. Nice to meet you. Okay. Quiz.
No expectations. So if we ask Vivian a question, let's identify ourselves first. So I didn't have a firm outline for how we'd approach this, other than let's get the lay of the land, pun intended, what the parcels are, what the general nature of them are, and when we had our brief conversation, there's a lot more to it than just the maps. Mm-hmm. So I was hoping you might just walk us through the overall description of them, and if you want to cue me, I can put up whatever one of the documents.
So both parcels are about 40 acres apiece. They are owned by a brother and a sister whose relatives and ancestors had lived in and developed in Old Lyme for many, many years. The addresses are 4 Mile River Road. So and the first one, or I call it the first one, it's 188 4 Mile River Road is the one to the north, and then 182 4 Mile River Road is the one to the south. And the addresses are taken from 4 Mile River Road. And I know since I've known about these, I always kind of try to look by, but you're making the corner, you're coming to the corner, and then it's gone.
So this is 4 Mile River here.
So that's 4 Mile River.
And this is the post road, looking above it.
Yeah, I tried to do a drive-by and it's not successful.
Well, yeah, it's like
We're looking at. Can someone give a laser?
The brown.
Can you see the pointer that I have up there?
No. Oh, there.
So this is 188 4 Mile River Road, and this is 182 4 Mile River Road. Each one is about 40 acres, give or take an acre or two. Here is 4 Mile River Road over there. The addresses are taken from there. There is another access to the land, however, and it's this dirt road that's actually a pretty good road, and it's an extension of Nicosia. That is very difficult to find on GPS because the town spells it Nicoja, but GPS doesn't spell it that way. If you were trying to locate something, it's not.
And is that the same driveway that goes to some of the affordable housing?
It goes to Ryfield.
Ryfield.
So to get to Ryfield, you make a right in onto Nicosia, go straight, and then you make a right turn off of Nicosia to get into the circle development. So frankly, whenever I've gone to take a look at the land, and I have not walked the whole thing, I come in this way, and I can take my car all the way down here.
Wow.
You know, rather easily. And I think from here going forward, I'm not too sure, I think this is owned by the town, perhaps, it's part of conservation, but it becomes pretty undrivable pretty much here.
This is, the shaded areas are open space.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know.
I think this is owned as well.
I think that might be the Coos property. That one.
Yeah, I think that's
So
good.
this doesn't
Yeah.
have, whose is
This isn't your,
Oh, I know what that is. Mike, you've got the town property. I think the upper 3 Mile Old Line Land Trust property might
let
be.
me pull up,
another, yeah.
188.
Yeah, I think I've got another one that's, I've looked at this so many times on GPS that, you know, you can't, it's hard to like screenshot all of them.
Trying to get my cursor back here. It's not coming.
Yeah, okay, so that,
Yeah,
that's here,
That's
but
Coos.
then, see right here, I think starts, Lime Land Trust wraps this way.
Yeah, that's the old one.
Yeah.
And how do you spell the GPS version of the road?
Okay.
NICO, try AJO. It's like they swap the A's and the O's.
So how would you spell it? N-I?
I'm not, I'd have to kind of like play with it.
Okay, I mean, yeah, you mentioned it, but I
The
didn't
city's
know.
like,
I think it's Nakajo.
And then field J-A, okay, cool.
There's no K in GPS, I don't think.
Okay. The cool, yeah, probably J-A.
I can't see. Yeah.
Oh,
If you want.
Okay, now I can drive again. Should I put up the one that you had for 188?
so you can afford.
did you have this one?
What's that title?
This is the one that has
Butters
all
188?
all the owners on it.
Let's see if this one is it.
And the phone.
Nope, that's not it.
This is too big. That's family owned.
Nope, that's not it. Was that in the scans that you sent me?
Mm-hmm.
I have everything that you sent me. That's not it.
Pass this one around.
Huh?
I just need to hang on to one of them.
No, I don't have that one with all of the sheets. Survey. No, it's not in. It's not in the scan stuff that you sent me.
Do you have the GIS access, Mike?
It's remote.
Yeah, I can punch up GIS live.
Yeah, let's do that.
It'll be
Let's
hard
do
to
that.
drive it from here.
Yeah.
We have. This is from GIS, right? I mean,
Yeah, the one that I.
She said the land trust wrap.
Comes around.
Yeah.
So that's why road above 174-3, that other road.
Where's that? 174.
Yeah, okay, so that would be this piece.
Here,
right
here.
Here. So
Oh,
that-
okay.
Yeah,
That's the old line land
yeah,
town.
and then, so that's where, right here is where it becomes really, difficult. Let's see here. That. And so this is all Coos property here. That's the one, this is Old Line, and I
That's trust
think-
land.
That's land trust
This is
over to
land
the.
trust over here.
Yeah, to the south and to the left.
Right. And it's right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know also there are some easements through the Coos property, from the dirt road that go from
From here?
property east-west.
Oh, I mean, there's something that goes this way?
Across, yeah.
You see it when you're driving this way, you see something that goes that way.
And there are actually two of them. There's one at that skinny part, and then there's
Over here.
and there's one further down. Yeah, both go east-west.
So that's an easement to get to the land trust property?
It is. It's from that road
Okay.
to the lay property, and it conveys to the trust.
And there's two, like one's like here?
Two. I'm sorry. May I point? I can just kind of roughly show it.
Thanks for coming, Al.
I work on the easements for the trust. So there's one here, roughly
Uh-huh.
there, and there's one roughly here.
there.
Okay.
The dirt road continues straight on this way, so there's one roughly there, and branch about there.
Those are through the Coos property, not through these two.
Correct. Yes.
So that road goes through, it doesn't, the Woodhead property?
It does. It goes right along it.
Yep, and then
I
does it
think
make the right
can-
turn? No, it doesn't make the right turn, you're saying.
I believe it continues straight. I'm not certain.
Are the easements active or just paper?
I don't know.
I mean, are people going up and down using the easements to gain access to those land trusts?
Couldn't tell you. No. But
He
they
just
are,
arranges
they are
for it.
easements so that you can get
you
access
can get
from the
there.
road to the lay property. And all these other property owners also have easements on this or to this
Yes.
dirt road. So you'll see.
Yes.
So who, the dirt road?
Everybody who owns, so there's.
So,
yeah,
so each of the
all
abutters, as
all-
it traverses
all the
their
abutters,
property,
It's a
yeah.
100-foot wide road.
So.
on the
this-
south
so
border of
this,
their land.
Everybody owns, you can see all these that are stacked.
Yep.
Here are the two that are in question now. So all these have the right, I'm not going to talk about the ownership aspect, but they have the right
Is
to
it a
tax.
dedicated road recognized by the city, or is it just like an old wood road?
I call it a wood road.
Okay, so it's not a dedicated road by the city, so they don't have any responsibility to maintain it or...
Correct. Not for the dirt, not for the dirt part. I would not want to comment on the lead-in of Nicosia.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be, I don't want to speak for what is properly called Nicosia.
Sure.
So that dirt road along the south border of these properties here would be the primary access to those properties?
Well, I think that's to be,
And
historically, that's the way it's been. Whether or not that is that remains the best way to go in there, I think is with the site development question. Because the more times that I drive by there, the more I'm like, it's not that bad. The ledge and the elevation.
Oh, so you're thinking,
coming up.
so coming in from 4
Four
Mile
Mile
River
River
Road?
Road has, I think this is all site engineering, a site
Okay.
engineering question, not for, somebody who just knows
Good. Let me-
real estate. It is rather steep, but if you look at some of the other developments that have occurred, for example, like Woodcrest, that is across from Point of Woods.
Yes.
And you know how that kind of climbs? Well, something like that could also be done if that was determined to be more cost-effective than running the road
It's owned by the
in.
adjacent owners. Trust, like others, have easement rights, so it's just right of
So
passage.
who has the liability?
The liability is owned by the property owners, I assume.
Wow.
The fee-paying property owner.
Okay, now I know, okay.
Yeah.
It always comes down to who the lawyers are gonna sue if something happens.
Then who pays the tax?
Pays the tax.
Yes, I believe they'll pay
That was helpful, I appreciate it.
on that.
I can't remember where as well. There's some sort of a stump they restored.
Well, I was going to point that out. What I understand is there is the old stump dump, which I believe is a portion, there's two Coos properties. So it may actually be, see this, so this is Coos, but there's no Coos over here. There's a, can't see it, it goes like this, and like, it's almost kind of like a square. I don't know if the stump dump is like here, but it's certainly not the whole thing. I don't know if that makes any difference to anything, to tell you the truth. But
my understanding was this is, third-hand learning, but that was something that they were permitted to do because of one of the hurricanes that had come through and destroyed a lot of trees, and then a lot of the brush was basically stored there. So they were given a deep permit, I think, and a town permit to be able to do that. Those relics are probably still there.
Yeah. When you say relics, it's like flat. No, you don't see any. You don't see anything. I think the whole point is that they were supposed to be buried.
Oh,
So,
I see. Okay.
but
Yeah.
it is. It has to be. It can never be built on because it's considered, unstable.
Unstable.
Yeah, unstable. Yeah. But you don't see.
Oh, you don't see a pile? Okay.
No, you don't see piles.
Alan, when you refer to the Lay property, is that the Lay Preserve?
Yes. it is.
Okay,
Yep.
good.
Are there any improvements accessible from the kosher? I mean, are there homes built on the side of the access?
Jason Beebe, who purchased this parcel, right, this parcel here, which you can't see, it kind of comes this way.
Yeah.
He purchased it from one of the Fosters about 2 years ago. Is doing something up there, and as I understand it right now, he's really working with Eversource to get utilities there. I understand, just like through the real estate, that he's looking to bring them up in Nicosia. Well, see, he's off of Boston. He doesn't have his land is only because he bought another parcel, really more off of Route 1, not Boston Post Road. So it's also to do with the topography of his piece. There's a ton of wetlands right in the bottom third or this third over there. So it would probably be harder to bring the utilities that way because his building site is likely to be over here.
And maybe these two, one or both of the properties are basically the start of the 3 Mile River, right?
Yes. In fact, you see it on one of the maps that I have.
It's on there,
It's right,
labeled.
It's right, like
Oh, I see.
here, right here. It's actually, because it's really, I think the feeder is here. It comes, that way.
Yep. Okay.
And it runs, and it runs through.
When I was looking at Jaida, so that it's fairly wet on the 4 Mile River side, or there's like a stripe of wet
Yes.
in the middle of it, and
There's
it's
more stripe, I think, on this piece, depending, let me see which one I've got here. There's actually 2 strips. So on this one, there's going to be, I think, it's this piece in here, and then according to this, there's another one over here. But then this piece, there's actually on GIS, there's no actual wetlands, it's just this
It's showing
water.
as wet, yeah.
Yeah, it's showing as like water.
But it's
the other-
not wetlands.
The other thing that's interesting, when I was playing around, and I don't, Michael, I think I did this after I spoke with you, I started looking at all the themes, and there's apparently a pretty good water supply in there, which is important for us. Anybody who lives on the line, it's like if you're close to a water supply. There's actually a major artery that runs through there, underground.
And then on the 4 Mile River side, looking at the topo, it's fairly steep. I haven't walked it either.
Here,
Yep.
yeah.
So I guess where I'm going with this is that it looks like the most buildable part is
is
on
like here.
the back side of the...
The easy buildable is over here.
Yep.
One thing I've learned being in real estate, you can do anything. Yeah, and it's a matter of what does it take to develop the whole thing? Are you crossing culverts? Are you doing blasting? What's the objective of the project? To maximize build, how much you want to build there, but then it's a cost trade-off. If you can get a lot of density, your cost may be okay. But it's not the part that I've seen. If you were to drive here, you'll see this is all really kind of pretty land. especially I was there in the winter, and walked in in the early winter.
The parts of the-
So I'm thinking then that any access from 4 Mile River Road to that section would have to traverse
Probably some
the
wetlands.
3 Mile River on 188 and traverse the wet spots
Wetlands, yeah.
on 182.
And why can't you get through Nicosia? Why do you gotta worry about,
And you'd have to buy it from
huh?
It's a,
developing, like say you were gonna put a house there, then you'd have to,
No, that was
I'd
not,
have-
that was just an if.
It's like and something before you. It's an alternate. I also am not sure if you need alternate egress.
Right.
Ins and outs. Now, Oak, that development in Oak. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
Okay, so when you cross over Flat Rock Hill, and you make a right turn, you go over 95, make a right turn, keep on going. There's a development there called that. So I thought that they needed emergency access, and it is this road. So I was, whether or not that's, I know it from an attorney. So the question was, do you in fact need two ways in around? I don't know. Or was it because Flat Rock was inaccessible because of 95? That's, I didn't know if that was the real reason for having another way out.
I know in our development we only have one way in, but we have an emergency way out to Hatchett's Hill up at the opposite end of our development.
Is it still?
Yeah, it's wide, it's open.
It's still open. You make, you take funds to keep it open?
Yeah, we keep it open. So I don't know if that's a requirement or if that was just part of the original plan.
The way it goes.
We have to look at that, but it's a good question.
Like Peppermint Ridge is built in a loop. Madison Ridge is not, but on the other hand, the density is not, it could be a density issue as well.
And what's that zone for, residential or multifamily?
So are you 80, I think?
I think, so, yeah. Yes, RU80.
What's that mean?
For 2 acres. Yeah.
2 acres.
2 acres.
So potentially someone could put multiple housing on each tract.
Yes, you'd have to meet all the zoning requirements for that. Those requirements, can be, kind of severe. Sometimes ledge comes into play, and road frontage. There's a fair amount of road frontage with these, but that it would be limited by those reasons. Yeah. But I think also in terms of what you're talking about, your zoning regs are a little bit different, or you have other legislation that addresses those issues.
Some of them, but
Yeah.
other things like if inland wetlands needs to get involved, then
Yeah.
that's not waivable.
Yeah. Right.
so if kids, they had children, where would the school bus access be? It
I
would
think
be on
wherever-
4 Mile, wouldn't it?
I think if it was determined that your primary way in, if the road was developed up to Nicosia, I would think it would be on, Nicosia. At the bottom, on Route 1. Those are the.
Yeah, it just says that it comes with an undivided 1/5 interest in and to a private road called Nicosia Way, more fully described in another volume and page. So we have a 1/5 interest in Nicosia Way.
already,
Already? Oh, yeah.
because everybody along that.
Right.
Right,
Right.
it looks like.
Yes, that's the one, that's what we were talking about earlier.
And that gives us access
Mhm.
then for the school bus?
Well, I
Well,
mean, whether or not the school bus comes up the road is a different issue.
Right, for the
but
children.
If you determined that your primary way in and the road that you were going to develop was essentially Nicosia Extension, then I think the school bus would be on Nicosia, or I guess not where Ryfield is because there's no kids there. I think also whether it came up Nicosia would be a matter of how many children there were, right? Which is what usually happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, the bus, M&J would discuss that with the superintendent.
That's right.
Figure out the routes
Right.
for your service and where the bus stops are. And if the bus can turn around without going on somebody's road.
Just require.
Yeah, I mean, you'd probably have, those would have to be issues taken into account for a site plan, that there would be that kind of, if you're going to do any sort of, anything other than, if you're going to try to maximize. So if the buildable, if you wanted to carry, I don't know if you should do that, is to assume, or if what you should do is really more something, that has something more like a feasibility study, to have a surveyor take a look at it and say, what do you think? To test what sounds like a very logical assumption, Michael, and that is that your building, it apparently may be here and here from a cost perspective,
Right.
unless you deem that having the whole thing accessible gave you money, so to speak, to do culverts, to do blasting, to use more of it. But if you didn't, I think probably what you have is half.
Yeah, and the way I see our thinking going is to just get the rough lay of the land,
Yeah.
and just say, what kind of opportunities might that afford? What approaches might we be able to take? And then iterate on that and kind of zoom in and test it. Because my sense is, and correct me on this if I'm thinking about it wrong, is that if the most easily, apparently, most accessible and buildable part, under a best case scenario, is the southern half of these. And it gets more complicated as you head north. Then we can start to just ideate on that. How do we approach that? And then if there was a relatively simple approach that made sense, that we can come up with for that, we could take it another step further. And if we had to complicate it more by going into, and but start out with the apparently most simple,
Right.
and cost-effective approaches, and then iterate from there. Go ahead, Bill.
That's a question. So is this, are we having this discussion because these parcels are come up for sale, or is there any interest on the part of the owners to be somehow involved in affordable housing? I'm not, so...
No, it has to do with, because it is for sale.
They're both listed, right?
They're both.
All right, so if there was some acquiring of this land, it would just be at market price, or... okay.
Correct.
Actively for sale, is it listed?
188 is actively for sale. Let's say it is on the open market. 182 is not on the open market.
And the listing sheets are in your packet, I think. And just to confirm our prior discussion, this is not none of this is confidential.
No.
No, we're
Yeah, we're in a public meeting. Just to,
otherwise we're operating like Congress, in the dark.
Any more questions about the?
We don't have an idea. I mean, we're imagining the building on this side of the, I'll say this side of the river, at least on the one. The other is the in any event, on this side. The west side. Yes? Is that the...
Well, I think that way is going to be south.
Oh, that's...
Left is south.
Left is
right
south.
north.
Okay, the south side.
Unlike most maps, we're west. You're right.
But I didn't really have where...
South 40.
Okay. We don't know how many acres that side, I mean, I guess if they're
Roughly
40, roughly 20. Well, it almost, to me, it looks like there's more on this side than there is on the south side, right?
3 Mile River Road and two wet bands, or you see one here, another one coming here, and
Right.
you can see the topo lines, it's fairly steep in here.
Right,
So
right.
basically, in here.
Yeah, I guess that looks to me like more than half, but it's around.
Because
yeah.
it was, especially on
Because
182,
it's widened
because
up,
it
yeah.
widens quite
It's a
significantly.
little less than half of this one,
Yeah.
and it's
It depends. Can you go,
Yeah.
Actually-
can you go north
Yeah,
on that one or not?
so
or not,
roughly.
Mike?
3 Mile River right here.
Yeah, but, so is this active, for this theme, is this active water here? The purple, lavender?
I don't know. That was one you ran in.
Did I?
Yeah, you ran this one.
Yeah, I think it.
But in any case, I don't think it's fundamentally changing. If it's 20 acres or 22.3 acres, it's not going to change our calculus on its own.
But probably, I think as you pointed out, probably a good way to think of it is about half.
I didn't. Yeah.
And that's all hypothetical at this point. We're just scenario built, potential scenarios.
This one is 182, so that's the one that's out. That's
Southern? No, it's,
actually, you know what?
They're both-
You're right, that is west, because that's
Yeah,
4 Mile River Road.
I thought, but I
yeah.
wasn't sure.
Yeah, because 4 Mile River Road
Yep.
pretty much runs north-south.
Absolutely not.
So,
Right.
yeah, so that is
That is
south.
west.
So that is west over there. So anyway, the sheet that you're looking at, is this piece here. These two.
I just want a clarification. These are the listings, and they both are for sale, they're both active. 182 and 188. And I just said there's a...
One is not publicly listed on MLS,
Yeah.
but it exists in MLS, but it's not, like Lori
I tried to
can't-
pull it up
you can't
today, and
pull it up.
I can only pull up one
Yeah.
on MLS today. It's hidden.
the agent is right now.
Well, no, it's not the agent. It's
Maybe I can,
no, I'll be right up. Why,
One listing it's not, they both say active, but for some reason it's hidden from the public.
right, it's actively for sale.
Really?
It's actively, but it's not listed on, it's not visible on MLS.
Not visible.
Not visible.
so if a
on
buyer, through knowledge of this, wants to buy it, it's for sale.
That's, yes.
Correct.
Yeah,
Good.
whether or not the owner says
I don't want it.
okey dokey is,
Right.
but that's always the prerogative of the seller.
Okay, good.
But I think you could, I'll be very frank, you could assume that the motivation of 82 perhaps is not as strong, but nonetheless has wanted me to represent him and his property for sale with interested parties. Just with, not just out there.
Is there a contingency between the two then?
No.
Because they're related and
No.
whatnot? No.
No. But I do think that because they are related, that the southern owner would be more apt to do something if his sister was doing something. Would be more apt to sell
Oh,
if it was part of a package, yeah. Mhm.
What's the orientations? Where's north, on the full quadrant, where's north-south? What's the...
Straight up.
Straight up.
North-south, okay, that's what I need, one.
And this is the town open space here?
That's the towns.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this So 182 abuts the town open space.
Yeah.
And, no,
And then the town open space abuts the land trust space.
Mm-hmm.
okay.
And exactly where is the, when I drove by, there was like a huge rock ridge. Where is that?
That would be, where you saw that, you would be seeing that right here.
But, yeah, that's what I thought.
Right there. Yeah. And you go by it pretty quickly, even though I think this one is 400 feet and this one is maybe 375. That's 4 1/4 maybe, and that's 375, something like that. But it happens when you're doing, 30 miles an hour. Because if you're lucky, you're doing 30 if you're coming to a stop sign. But, yeah.
Really good marketing strategy, because if you get somebody in to look at 188 who's serious, and then you say they're not so interested, you could say, oh, yeah, we've got 182, which is a bigger property.
It's always easier when you're both on MLS.
Is it?
Yeah, oh yeah. Oh yeah. There's a lot happening in the world, and
Are they out of town, the owners?
yes, they are out of town. Yeah. They're, it's not a secret, it's not confidential. Their ancestors do you know where Herb Chambers lives, in the White House? And that was, I think, originally a Chadwick house, so those are the descendants.
Oh, okay.
I think their parents are in Duck River Cemetery. And the current generation is older, the sellers that we're working with.
But their last name's not Chadwick, is it? No. Okay.
No, because it came down through the maternal line.
Interesting.
That?
What makes New England great.
Yeah.
I just love it. Land.
I also think that the Village Drive subdivision near 95, that was a different branch of the family as well.
Any other clarifying questions on the lay of the land? John?
Yes.
Any more questions for Vivian on the nature of the property?
It looks like you need an engineer involved to figure out what's buildable.
At some point.
Yeah,
All right.
absolutely, at some point.
So if we have a general sense of how the property is laid out, my thinking was we can shift gears a little bit and say, okay, given a piece of property like that, what could be done with it through the lens of affordable housing? So with Alan, I'm really glad you're here. As I went back and looked at our affordable housing plan and just said, okay, so what approaches have we set out in our strategy as the kinds of approaches that are amenable? And some of the parameters were well, first have accessible space, okay, check. The other is to not trigger any needs for additional infrastructure in the form of water or sewer. So would this site be amenable to septic treatment?
Right.
Potentially so. So given that, the kinds of things that we had set out in our strategy as most feasible and most in keeping with the needs of the community and the kinds of affordable housing that would benefit the community. We had cottage cluster concept, so putting a cluster in there, which kind of maps onto the planned subdivision that Lori and I live in, where you have a parcel of space that's zoned RU80, so the overall density, if there's a way you could plan to develop a portion of that and reserve the rest of it as open space, then the net density for that would be conforming. That's the kind of thing that can be waived.
Does that mean the net density can be less than 2 acres? In other words,
So not
right.
only if you had
So-
40 acres there, at 2 acres, that would be 20 parcels, okay? Looking at these, a way to approach that through a planned subdivision in town is to put the 20 units on 10 acres and hold the rest open.
The tough topography can be in that extra space.
And that's where you put the wet space and the ledge and stuff. Especially if it's concentrated like that. Although with affordable housing, that's the kind of thing that is more flexible, the density, if you have qualified affordable.
But does it change that it's single family? It could be,
Doesn't say.
No, it doesn't.
no, so it could be,
If it's affordable.
okay.
I don't think planned subdivisions contemplate multifamily. I'd have to go look at that. Have you read up on it, Amy?
I don't think it does.
Through that, I don't think it does contemplate.
And they do have some, I've seen where they're environmentally sensitive, where they do clusters, but they're not paved roads and they don't have a lot of runoff.
So that's another whole approach, and there's actually a subdivision in Guilford that's taken a conservation cluster where there is environmentally either sensitive or just desirable for public access land, and some of which is available for building. If you go back to the first workshop we did with the town, and we had done those case studies, look at the case studies, there's one in there from the town of Guilford that has just that. So the one in Guilford, I think, has a half a dozen or 8 homes and then a bunch of open space, and it's engineered to be in harmony.
Middletown has one, that's the one I'm familiar with. They actually have a similar concept.
So that concept is precedented locally.
What town is that, Anthony?
Middletown.
Middletown, okay.
And one in Guilford.
Okay. Good.
Mike, does the economics in that case work out for the developer because the density it's greater density?
Well, that was done in partnership with the town, too.
Oh, I see.
So
Okay, so maybe it's free
it's a partial open space acquisition, and
Economically, if you don't have to develop traditionally, you have reduced site preparation costs. So if you're not putting in paved roads and sewers and it's not only environmentally friendly, but it also reduces the cost of the land. So maybe it not being 20%, maybe it's not 10% or 12% of the overall development, because you save those traditional subdivision costs. And that's part of what the trade-off is. You maintain a natural environment, it's aesthetically appealing, but you don't have to put in a lot of the development, the roads, the sewers, sidewalks, and whatever. So again, that's the trade-off in a smaller group of people cluster. So you save money that way.
so there's 2. And the third thing that I came up with in just looking at our plan and saying, okay, try and overlay this potential opportunity onto our strategy is just a 30-year-old approach, which is just a developer coming in and under 830G developing land, such that if 30% of the units that went in there were qualified affordable, then they would be able to have some flexibility with the density. It would not waive any health or safety, or we've been through this with 830G, or any environmental concerns, but it would be a way to approach the sort of unevenly developable nature of these, or presumed unevenly developable. Although, as you said, I come from Ridgefield, and boy, they put some houses in places I couldn't believe. They're like, California.
Yeah, I grew up in one of those, foot of a hill.
Anyway.
Would there have to be a road to get to it, like a paved access?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Be like there now.
So again, this is a presumption based on the documents, but it looks like there is deeded access to these via Nicosia.
So you don't think you'd have to put in like a street level road?
I don't think so.
Oh, wow.
A town owned 50 foot.
Yeah, whether the town owns it or not.
I mean, a town,
Spec,
If you develop an affordable and an environmentally sensitive development, that's like a home run. That checks two big boxes.
Yeah.
In my book, it does. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, when I confess, when I was going through this, that whole conservation subdivision was an attractive concept, particularly when you think about the nature of a line.
Yeah.
I guess
you could do a road trip if you'd like.
all of this would be in feasibility if there were at some point, but I don't know if there might be requirements different for like if someone were to build a home on that, and if you were to develop the whole area as far as the road. Yeah, I don't know if that would be the same.
Yeah, so I think what we're going to come out of this, we're going to iterate.
Right.
So we got a much improved picture over what the land is like. You intersect that with our affordable housing strategy, and there's at least 2 or 3 potential approaches on here that might be amenable to this. And then our next step is to come up with some questions on how do we test those hypotheses.
Like you had mentioned, one of the concepts was what you call the cottage cluster.
Mm-hmm.
And is it true like Chestnut Ridge would be an example of that?
Smaller homes. So this would be more...
That concept, but much
Yeah.
smaller homes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
That might like share septic or something like that.
Okay. So they would be affordable by virtue of maybe shared resources, but not the 830G type.
No. Well, that would be the third
They
strategy.
could potentially...
Could or could not
So
be
they could
on
ten-
any case 830G.
They could potentially be qualified by the state, in which case they would be, they would have 830G provisions accessible to them, or they could just be what we refer to as naturally affordable, naturally affordable, naturally occurring affordable housing, which is just basically starter homes,
Right. Yep.
which are in great demand, and
Yeah.
none are being built.
Something like that.
Maybe a good analogy would be, tell me if I'm wrong, would be active adult communities.
Mhm.
Is that big? But those, they don't have like a half acre per, what do you think they have? Maybe a tenth of an acre, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a
Well,
lot of
actually,
those are-
you own,
A lot of those
nothing's
are leased
owned.
land.
They're either leased land or they're condominiumized.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the other.
And we found this out through a family member.
But that's because they're condominiumized, because that's the way they got the zoning, is,
And the ones that are in leased land, if they put manufactured homes on there, they are often regarded as mobile, and they have a whole different set of they have a whole different set of mortgage and insurance issues with them. So, yeah, some of those, like the Sun communities, kind of.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever seen one, but.
So those are some of those. At least some of those homes that I'm familiar with are classified as mobile.
There's one on Mile Creek. And when they had that fire on Mile Creek and they rebuilt that after you come off 95 after McNick. Yeah, that house is a manufactured home.
But your question, a cottage cluster would be almost like a shrunken version of a planned subdivision.
Yes, yeah, okay, I understand.
Cluster.
I wasn't getting what the affordable component of that was, but Jen
Smaller.
explained.
Yeah, could be qualified or just by dint of small size.
Yep. Right. Anecdotally, I was down in Alabama recently, drove by a brand new subdivision, 4-bedroom homes, lovely homes, no basement, flat, simple, kind of low end everything. Those sell for $269.
Oh, really? That much, huh? Alabama.
Where now?
Yeah, I was thinking.
Oh, that's why.
Yeah.
It's a mobile.
Oh, no, way outside of the town.
Okay.
Yeah, nice.
And,
Some people here would kill for that house, but you'd wonder.
Those are all the people that are getting this, paying $260, they're the people from.
Easier taking their pensions and going down and buying a big house.
Let's get back on task here. So, next steps. Again, I'm wide open to thoughts on this, but so we have some do some hypothesis generating here. So I would say a next step would be to come up with a list of questions that would help us maybe prioritize these, help us understand what a fit might be, and how we might approach this to advocate for it. I mentioned this to you. We have no money, so
Yeah,
whatever
the acquisition cost would be the
whatever we
number
do, we're going to have to attract developers to do it.
one. Yeah.
We don't have any capacity to do development ourselves in this commission. So we would have to act.
For land acquisition.
We have no funding for land acquisition. Open space does have some, but that's for open space. But the way we would function would be more as a catalyst.
Mhm. One thing is that 180, the one that's for sale actively, the visible one that's for sale, is, I mean, if we're going to do anything, we're going to have to move pretty quickly. That's in the open market, 188, the south. It's got a little bit more flexibility, but we don't know what the land looks like. So I know I'm going to drive out there and take a look at it.
Oh, can we drive?
As a sidebar, I offered, a road trip, and there's no reason you have to go as a group, though sometimes it's.
If we
good.
do, if more than two of us go, then it's a public
meeting.
meeting. It has to be posted, it has to be convened as a public meeting, and there has to be an agenda and minutes. We're under, if three of us occupy the same space talking about commission business, we're under FOI, and as you know, we're very, very highly committed as a first principle to complete transparency on that. So
That's why I said because I know that. That's right. You're correct. But I do think it's worth going down there to see.
even if you happen to, if three people happen to bump into each other there,
But it's a casual, unintended.
if you start doing commission business though,
Well, no, you can't talk business.
Yeah,
That's-
what I will say, for anybody who wants to take a drive out, what I will do is, I think there are a couple of maps that are, there's a really good benchmark, and that is when you see a big pond on the left, that is, you're getting very close, you're going to see a pond right about here. And
Road rally.
that is the pond. You'll know that, and that pond kind of abuts this line here.
Okay.
And so the road's going to follow this contour. So kind of this is how I did it, is you kind of follow, you just kind of follow the road and have the map go with you and say, oh, I'm about here. The other thing, which I haven't perfected yet, is I've done it with, being online with Google Maps, and but it's not quite as fine-tuned. There is an app that I have, but I haven't quite figured out how to use it. It's one of the hunting maps, and the one I have is OnX Hunt. And that was referred to me by somebody who hunts, saying it's very finely tuned and it shows property lines for hunters because they can't necessarily go places. So if you're familiar with any of those apps, that would be even better.
What's that app?
OX.
Oh,
Yeah. No. I can pull it out actually. OnX Hunt.
yeah, I think I'm thinking about this as in the interest of transparency and efficiency. I think our plan A should be to organize something and have as many of us get there at the same time as possible.
And just
and
do a
maybe we'd
meeting.
have to do it once or twice.
Call for a meeting. And
Yeah, we just call a special meeting and do it, and there's no problem doing that whatsoever.
You're done.
No problem. And it would be more efficient because we'd all see the same thing at the same time, and it would be more transparent because it would all be posted. So
We have a meeting next Wednesday night.
we have a meeting next Wednesday night, and we have a pretty full agenda for
Oh.
that. So we would want to do that. And it's also
Well, I think this time of day would be
this time of day is fine.
good. Not so much later.
Not 4 o'clock.
Not much later.
Yeah.
Fourth tough.
Of course, I work in Milford, so.
Oh my goodness.
30 this morning, so right now you're in meeting. So it's a little difficult. But that's okay.
But there's weekends to do that too. so we could do it on a Saturday as well.
Yeah.
We don't need access to the facility, so.
Yeah.
So we'll take that up. But what I would say between now and, we'll discuss this again, we have a regular meeting come up on tomorrow. We'll take this up again.
We have a
I was
meeting
at-
tomorrow?
Third Wednesday of the month is next
Week.
Wednesday.
Next.
I thought you said
The
tomorrow.
17th. Wednesday the 17th at
Yeah.
5 o'clock, right here.
I can leave, I just realized I have 2 copies of this. If
Anybody else want another map?
Anybody want one?
Tell you what, I will take one, I will scan it, and I will
Okay.
add it to the electronic packet, so we all have it.
Which is the parcel that looks like, I mean, it's just this huge ledge from the road?
So Al, we can all get our 86.
You know, they both look, I think this one looks steeper to me, except there's
So
this
home-
see, there's the road there. Yeah, I think maybe it's this one.
Date to,
Okay, so you gotta get some more gas for the Honda?
so homework would be to review the output of this meeting. I will send this out, so everybody has it. Review the maps, review our workshop materials and the affordable housing plan, and then let's go into this hypothesis generating phase, and then we'll come up with some questions to test some of them and take it from there.
Maybe the owners would be amenable to slicing it in half and taking the tax rate off the other.
Yeah.
There's all kinds.
Is there any,
So, yep.
there's no flexibility?
I don't believe this question has come up with other land that they've sold, having to do with, you know, tax advantages of donations, and the answer was, no, thank you.
Yeah.
It is heavily wooded, just curious, so is it brush, scrub brush, what's the?
Jeff fought in the winter, so it wasn't. But, you know, I know what happens now is it's starting to,
It's pretty dense. At least the front, the site that's visible from the road. Yeah, I don't know about the interior portion, which would be,
have you driven up there, Mike? Would you go up there, Michael?
I haven't driven, I've
You haven't
driven only via,
When I was up there in February and I went up Nicosia, it looked, you know, you could see in, but, you know, that was the winter. It makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Like
Could you see the road okay in the winter?
yeah.
The dirt.
Oh, yeah. The dirt road?
Yeah.
Yes, the dirt road was in much better shape than I thought it would be, actually.
actually, I can tell you in a sec, Anthony. Let me just punch that up on Google Maps and look at the satellite view, the aerial view.
It all looks green. Well, no, sometimes it looks gray. If it looks gray, that's good.
All right, there's the corner of Boston Post Road, and there's the 3 Mile River. And we'll go to the layers.
What's right there?
What do you have, like a Cadillac or something?
Well,
You're not gonna drive down?
All right, I'll put this up on the screen.
it's like 4th floor around there.
I have an edge.
So there's the loop of the Post Road.
Okay, so
There's
what
4 Mile
we're
River.
doing is,
So these lots are going right back here.
yeah, they're coming this way.
Yep.
Okay, so where the
Can
house,
you see the 3
here's,
Mile River? I can't see it.
no, well, maybe right here.
Mike, if you're able to bring up the GIS, one of the themes will show you a leafless map, and you can see the road very.
Anthony was just asking, is it wooded? So,
Wooded.
yeah.
Oh, wooded, definitely.
Yes.
But the brush is, I don't
So,
know.
Yeah, so, yeah, I mean,
But-
with
but-
indigenous trees.
yeah. It's not as mature. This is called, the family informally calls this the woodland property. So, you know, back in the day, they would, you know, take the wood out of it. So it's not perhaps as, you know, big as you would expect it to be.
okay. Alan?
Well, you know what, here's that pond I was telling you about, so that means that's kind of, it kind of angles that way like this. And so I think this is
That's the access way?
no, the
Oh,
access way, the
oh,
access.
that's the river. Oh, that's the
Over
river.
here. Yeah, I
Yep.
think this may be the river.
That's the river.
Yeah, right in there.
Which
I'm trying to
would,
find my
No,
cursor.
or it's this.
3 miles.
the 3 Mile?
The road should be visible. There
There
it
it is.
No, yeah, the road's over here.
There it is.
Yep. Yeah.
I overzoomed. So that's that's got to be the river.
Oh, there's, see, it says 3 Mile
Oh, 3 Mile
River.
River, there it is. Yep,
Those little white words say
Yep.
3 Mile River.
yep, there it is.
It goes, I think, up that way.
Yep.
It goes there.
Does look relatively well, but anyway.
And I think that perhaps this area here is ledgy, because that's why we're not seeing much in the way of green.
Seen it, great. So, another step I suggest is reaching out to Open Space via Greg Futoma, which I can do. I have to chat with him anyway. So, we can get this on their radar screen. It's on the Land Trust radar screen.
Yeah, and just to clarify, I'm not a board member on the trust. I'm a volunteer who does work with them, so I know, some of the things they're up to. So I can't speak on behalf of the trust, but certainly, when there's a good-sized property available in the town, they have an interest in what happens to it.
But I'll
Do they have more of an interest when it abuts another piece?
The bigger the better is probably the rule.
Yeah, so, and that's, I thought that was very good for at least 180, for the guy who does it, who is like ambivalent about selling. For 182, that's the one that,
Sure.
and connects.
And sometimes people care a lot about their legacy. They care a lot about one of their relatives lives next door, so they care about all that as well. So.
Oh, just an interesting question. I've never asked this before, but what's the relationship between open space and the Affordable Housing Commission? Because one might want to keep...
And the what
open.
commission?
Us. I mean, there seem to be competing interests to develop for affordable housing or keep it open.
I mean, the two commissions have two different chartered missions.
Right.
One is to acquire open space. The other is for us to increase the inventory of affordable housing and some of the policy and regulatory aspects of that. But we've already seen through the McCulloch opportunity that they don't have to be competitive. They can be synergistic. So, that's the trajectory we would want to take on this.
And probably legally too, because if a community's constantly using open space and open space and open space, there are certain interests in the state who find that to be discriminatory by locking out development of affordable.
On the other hand, the state has a whole program the state has a program that's promoting the acquisition of open space.
Yeah, I know. That's what's crazy about it. I mean, the state's doing two things simultaneously.
We could drive ourselves crazy with all of that, but I think
Exactly.
the tone that we can set, and I think is the best one, is
Hartford instead of here for at least 6 months.
I think the tone we want to set is to reach out to the other folks that could be potential stakeholders, contributors to this, is to reach out in the spirit of collaboration and try and find a way to do together things that we couldn't do by ourselves.
And to that as well, Mike, I'm sure the Old Land Trust, which is not related to but knows everybody on the open space, would be also happy to engage with the conversation about it.
And I'll reach out.
And they'd have ideas on how things might work.
And we're trying hard to notch a win on that right in town, and we've seen in other communities where there have been win-wins in that space. So that'd be plan A.
The place in Guilford you mentioned, that's up now, that's existing now, so someone could go there and take a look as well.
Do you know what the name of it is?
I knew you were going to ask me this thing.
Video.
It is knowable.
What?
Isn't it in the video of the workshop?
Yeah, it's knowable. I don't know it off the top of my head.
Google that concept.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, all right, so it's...
I want to thank you very much for inviting me to the...
Thank you.
to your
You're
meeting.
so generous with your time, Vivian.
That's my pleasure to be here.
It's great. This is
And
for me.
do let me know if there's going to be a group meeting up there, just so.
Oh, I definitely will.
I know. If it would be appropriate, I'm happy to be there. If you guys,
that's fine.
if it's inappropriate, that would meeting though. So.
And we wouldn't want to clash with one of your showings, so we want to make sure we...
Absolutely, we'll coordinate closer with any of that.
8 people trucking in there.
Over.
John, you're out there on the phone. Anything else from out in the ether?
No, I'm very good.
All right.
I thought John
Thank
already
you.
took off and do it so.
All right, then. If there's nothing else, I'll do something I don't normally do, which is just to, since it's a special meeting with one agenda item, I can summarily adjourn the meeting at this point. And that's what I'll do. The meeting is adjourned.
Michael, do you have copies?
Thanks again.